Spencer-Shapiro, and this is Rise Up and Sing Shabbat. We wanted to illuminate and celebrate the idea of using your voice for justice, for peace, for good, to speak up. Words are extremely important in Judaism. How do we know that? Because if we look at the very first line of the Torah, we see that God created the entire world with speech, with voice. He said, "Let there be light," and everything that was created were with words. So we know that words have power and meaning and can create and change the world. I want to open with a special poem about this idea of using our voice. Tell them I'm struggling to sing with angels, who hint at it in black words printed on paper, gold-edged by time. Tell them I sit here invisible in space, nose running, coffee cold and bitter. Tell them I tell them everything, and everything is never enough. Tell them I'm praying, and voices rise up within to startle children. Tell them I walk off to the woods to sing. Tell them that books get fewer, words go deeper. Some take months to get through. Tell them there are moments when it's all perfect. Above and below, it's perfect. I would like to invite Joni Reisman to come up and light Shabbat candles. I hope you all have your song sheets, because in a moment we're going to sing Sabbath prayer. Except we don't have any candles. I mean, we don't have any matches. We need matches.
You know what? Why don't we sing Sabbath prayer? And while we're doing that, I see Bonnie and Cruz are walking in the back there. It looks like they're going to find some candles for us. So let's start with Sabbath prayer. When we came up with this idea about using our voices, we also didn't want you to just sit and listen to our voices. We really wanted to invite all of you to join us in rising up and singing yourselves. So Sabbath prayer, I hope you know this song, and please do sing along with us.
Here it is. Oh. turn to page 2 for the blessing over the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו במצוותיו והצילנו
So there are many ways to speak out and speak up. Sometimes it's by offering a radical new idea that no one had ever thought of before. The Kabbalists in ancient Safed in the 17th century started to teach this amazing idea that God is in everything. Holy sparks are in everything, and they're within us, and that we must live in holiness and light to bring repair, tikkun, and holiness into the world. And so when they went out into the fields to welcome the Sabbath bride, they were not just wedding themselves to Shabbat, but they were wedding themselves to this idea that we all contain these divine sparks. Page 20, Lecha Dodi. And face the back to welcome in the Shabbat bride. standing for the Baruch on page 28. Join your voices with mine on the top of page 29, and let's read together in English. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the songs of her people. There is one whose voices ring with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Please be seated. So one of the great Jews of history, in my opinion, who spoke out not just for himself, but for the world, was Elie Wiesel. I often find that people who speak out speak from their own personal experience, and in this case, it's suffering and what he went through, as we know, during the Shoah, during the Holocaust. This is what he said: "We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Sometimes we must interfere. When human lives are endangered, when human dignity is in jeopardy, national borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Wherever men and women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must, at the moment, become the center of the universe. People everywhere need to know that they've got a friend." Please sing with us, "You've Got a Friend."
Nothing is going right.
please rise for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. We continue with the Via Hafta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
So every week we read the Via Hafta in English, and we know what it's about. It talks about remembering the mitzvot when we come, when we go, when we rise up, when we lie down. We put it on our doorposts. We put it as a sign if we wear tefillin. But to me, the most important part is, and you shall teach your children diligently. You must teach them our Jewish values, our Jewish way of life, our Jewish vision of the world. So what exactly are we supposed to teach them? There's so much, but here are three sayings or three teachings that our sages from the Talmud tell us we must teach our children. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, "The world is sustained by three things: by truth, by justice, and by peace." Imagine if we all taught our children just that, and they believed it, and they lived by that. Ben Azai taught, "Do not disdain any person. Do not underrate the importance of anything, for there is no person that does not have his hour, and there is no thing without its place in the sun." Everything and every person is important. Imagine if we taught that to our children. And Rabbi Hillel says, "In a place where no one behaves like a human being, you must strive to be human. Even in the worst place, you must strive to be a mensch, a good person, a decent person. We must all teach our children well." So the very first record of the people of Israel singing and raising their voices was in the Michamocha, which is on page 40. Biblical scholars say this is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, writing in the Torah. It's from 1200 BCE. And there's a beautiful midrash about how when Abraham got his blessing, he didn't sing to God, and when Isaac was saved from the sacrifice, he didn't sing to God, and when Jacob met Rachel and had his children, he didn't sing to God, and even Moses didn't sing to God. And finally, when the Israelites, when the Jewish people crossed the river, they sang to God, and the Midrash says, God said, "This is what I've been waiting for my children to sing to me." Page 40, Michamocha.
וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. We continue with our beautiful Shabbat song, Vishamru, on page 44.
Shabbat ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise. We're going to do a silent Amidah, but I'd like to set our intention with these words. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. May this day fulfill its promise. In this silent Amidah, I'm going to ask you to think about, or ask God to help, ask you to think about asking God how you can use your voice, how you can speak up, even in the smallest way, how you can extend your hand and extend your voice to make a difference. Please be seated. Sometimes we need preparation for what we're going to do. This silent Amidah is the beginning of our preparation. People need to get ready.
There's a train a-comin'. You don't need no baggage. You just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the Jesus humming. You don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord. So people get ready
So sometimes we have to raise our voices and ask for a blessing for those who are not as fortunate as us, who are suffering and need a blessing of healing, physical healing, spiritual healing, emotional healing. We're going to be saying the Misha Berach, which a friend of mine claims she's been saying it for somebody who's ill in her life, and he's been getting better because she believes the Misha Berach is making the difference. And maybe it is. We would hope so. But before we do that, I would like you to stand up. Please rise if there's someone in your life that you would like to have a blessing for, a Misha Berach. And when I point to you, please say that person or those people's names out loud. Those of you at home, if you would like to say names out loud, and I would also like to add these names: Emily Blau, Jeffrey G., Stephanie G., Merlot Gadushi, Levi Jonathan, Michael Levy, Annette Pansky, Trevor Sangster, Charles Schwartz, Alan Soroti. Page 253, Misha Berach. You know, about a month ago when the Cantor and I decided that we wanted to have this Rise Up and Sing Shabbat, I had not looked at the Torah portion. And it's pretty interesting that the Torah portion this week has two significant sections about the voice and speaking up. The first part is about vows and how if you make a vow, it actually says if a person takes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath imposing an obligation on him or herself, He shall not break his pledge. He must carry out all that has crossed his lips. Vows or words, again, in the Torah are so powerful that you can't break them. That's why we have Kol Nidre every year, because we're saying, oh, if I did not keep my word, please forgive me and make it null and void. That's what it's about, because vows are so powerful. The second point in the Torah portion is near the very end, and it's a little addendum to the story of the daughters of Zelophehad. The daughters of Zelophehad were 5 sisters whose father was dead, and they had no brother, and Moses was apportioning out the land because they were on the border and they were about to enter the promised land. In every tribe and every family, the head of the household, the male head, was getting some land, and they had no male to get land for them. And they went to Moses and the elders. They interrupted this huge group, this huge meeting where they were apportioning the land, and they said, we have no brother, we have no father, why should we not inherit? And they spoke up, and I always think about how they were just these 5 insignificant young women going be in front of the chieftains and the princes and Moses and Aaron. And Moses didn't even know what to say. And in the Torah it says, he asked God, and God said, they are correct. The daughters may inherit where there's no brother and no father. And then later on, daughters just inherited equally with brothers. But in this situation, they spoke up. And they changed the law for all daughters after that, and for all Jewish women really after that. So we have no idea when we speak up the ripples or the effect it's going to have on people after us. Again, I talked about this with Elie Wiesel. A lot of times people choose a cause that happened to them, something that they know personally hurt them, and they want to make a change. We had a speaker here this spring, a Jewish woman who was incarcerated. Actually, it turned out falsely for tax evasion. It wasn't true, but she refused to plead guilty, and she wouldn't make a deal because it wasn't true, and she was incarcerated for 2 years, and she learned the horrible experience of being an incarcerated person, an incarcerated woman in prison. And when she got out, she has devoted her life to helping incarcerated people, particularly women. She started something called the Suitcase Project, because she said when you get out of prison, they give you nothing. They say, okay, goodbye, and you have nothing. And this project now raises money to give a woman a suitcase with clothes and cosmetics and toiletries and a cell phone and a bus pass, something to start. Another friend of mine was sexually abused as a child by people in her family, and she didn't really remember it until she was in her 20s, and there was a statute of limitations, and it was too late to do anything, and she could not sue or do anything to the people who perpetrated this on her. And she was a lawyer, and she decided she was going to change the law. And she worked for 10 years in the state of California to change the law so that the statute of limitations doesn't start. The clock doesn't start ticking until you remember. So if you remember at 25, you have then 3 to 5 years to prosecute the person. So it happened to her, and she decided to work and speak out for that. We talked about Elie Wiesel, of course, another person whose personal experience created her cause was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who, as we know, if you saw the movie or saw the documentary or whatever, she was constantly discriminated against as a woman. She got into law school. She was one of just 7 women to get to Harvard Law School. She was the first woman on the Harvard Law Review, but when she graduated near the top of her class, no one would hire her as a woman. As a lawyer, she couldn't get a job. And so she became a professor of law, and then she joined in some lawsuits discriminating against. Well, it was interesting what she did. Her first discrimination suit was defending a man who could not get compensation for being a caregiver. So she changed the word discrimination against women to discrimination against gender, and then was able to change the law for women. And she ended up arguing 6 cases before the Supreme Court and winning 5 of them before she became a Supreme Court justice. And we know that she was very outspoken for women's rights based on her own experience. I don't know if you know who Bernard-Henri Lévy is. He came and spoke at the temple. He's a French philosopher who didn't personally suffer, though he probably experienced anti-Semitism because that was one of his things that he fought against in France. But he went around the world as a journalist, a filmmaker, an author, and he discussed and brought into the limelight the suffering of people in Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Angola, Burundi, Syria, Colombia, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Libya, and Georgia. He went to these places, he wrote about these places, he spoke up just with words to the point where heads of state, including the president of France, called him in and asked his opinion on things because he had spoken up, he had investigated, and they considered him an expert. We have our own Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who was a Hasidic master, a teacher, a professor, who, as many of us know, spoke and marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., saying, "I am praying with my feet." And his big cause, because he had experienced anti-Semitism in Poland and he knew about the Holocaust, was racism against African Americans. And he, again, like Elie Wiesel said, the worst thing we can do is be indifferent. And that he said, how many disasters do we have to go through in order to realize that all of humanity has a stake in the liberty of one person? Whenever one person is offended, we are all hurt. What begins as inequality of some and inevitably ends as inequality of all. And there were, I have to mention that amazing young woman, Malala Yousafzai, the young girl who was shot in the head and who spoke out for education of girls despite her life being threatened. And she said, let us arm ourselves with the weapon of knowledge, and let us shield ourselves with unity and togetherness. There are many, many examples, and we need to become an example to the next generation. We need to show young people. Young people are showing us, and we need to respond in kind. Many writers we know have risked their lives to speak out. Salman Rushdie, when he criticized radical Islam, had a fatwa on him, and Daniel Pearl, who was investigating al-Qaeda, was murdered. And journalists, as we know, are speaking out in writing, and I just read that 45 journalists were killed in 2021 trying to report the truth. So what if we don't speak out? Will it make any difference? I want to conclude with this quote that I know you've heard before, but I think we need to hear it again, by the Reverend Martin Niemöller in Germany. First they came for the communists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak out because I was not a Catholic. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. We have to arise, and speak out. And Cantor Shapiro is going to talk about this very amazing new song that has been written recently.
So this is first of all, a beautiful song. Maybe it'll become one of your favorites, as it's become one of mine. It's on my playlist on the regular at home. And I want to share a little bit about the purpose of why it was written and how it was written. It was written by a young woman named Jean Rowe. I believe it was written in 2016. And it was written as an alternative national anthem. So you may ask, why do we need an alternative anthem? Well, maybe we don't, but Jean Rowe felt that we do. And I will share with you what you're going to love about this song, unlike the national anthem that we have now, is, the national anthem, it's great. Like, it's terrific for me and Jeanette because there's lots of high notes there, and we love that. But it's difficult for most people to sing. This song is much, much more made for you and me to sing, for all of us to sing, and was created with that in mind, actually, that everyone should be able to sing it. And Rowie just felt that the lyrics of our current national anthem were very warrior-like, and celebrated that part of our history, which certainly is a part of our history, right? We are created with revolution. But she wanted something a little different. So obviously this has not become the new national anthem, and I don't think there's any chance that it will become the new national anthem. So I want to be very clear. I am not advocating that because I'm afraid I'm going to get letters. So no letters. I still like those high notes. Don't take them away from me. But I think we can add this to our repertoire. So I want to teach you the chorus that starts with these words, "Arise, arise." You can find them on your song sheets there. Arise. Okay, so this is the highest note that you have. Arise. That's it, okay? Highest. It's good. Okay. Arise, arise, your turn. Arise, arise. I see the future in your eyes. Your turn. I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire. Your turn. To a more perfect union we aspire, and lift our voices from the fire, and lift our voices from the fire. That's the whole chorus. Let's just try the chorus and then we'll do the whole thing. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire, and lift our voices from the fire. Do you want to try that one more time? No, you got it? All right, you guys are amazing. All right, let's do it. Atlantic and Pacific flow, the Great Lakes and the Gulf of Mexico, the land between sustains us all. Cherish it, our tireless call. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire, and lift our voices from the fire. We reach these shores from many lands. We came with hungry hearts and hands. Some came by force and some by will, at the auction block or the darkened mill. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire, and lift our voices from the fire. We died in your fields and your factories, strange fruit hanging from
be guardians of our liberty, till tyrants bow to the people's dream, and justice flows like a mighty stream. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire, and lift our voices from the fire. Arise, arise, I see the future in your eyes. To a more perfect union we aspire, and lift our voices from the fire.
That is really beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Before we conclude with Kaddish, I would like to ask you to remain for the Kiddush and the Motzi, and then we have this amazing Oneg Shabbat of all kinds of delicacies for you tonight. But before we do that, Cantor, maybe you could introduce our musicians, because they just gave us such beautiful music tonight.
I would love to do that. Thank you so much. So I'm going to start from the end over there. We've got MB Gordy on percussion. Thank you, MB. And we've got Bob Remstein on the keys. David Ellis on guitar. And we have Jeanette Mills on vocals here joining us, helping to make there be an invitation to you all to sing with us, which you did so beautifully. Actually, I want to recognize all of you. So give yourself a hand as well. And we have Hope Easton on cello.
Yes.
And we have Leo Chelyapov on the woodwinds. Chelyapov? Chelyapov. Okay, so thank you so much to all of our musicians. What you do is called Hidur Mitzvah. It's adding beauty to the prayers that we say, and it makes each mitzvah that we do even more of a mitzvah because you are here and adding that. So thank you.
So now we're going to take a moment to remember those who are no longer with us as we prepare to say Kaddish. It's our tradition to ask those in mourning for either the first 30 days or Yortzeit to please rise. We begin by remembering those who have passed away during Shloshim, the first 30 days. Geraldine Alden, Steve Alexander, Barbara Lynch Bronstein, Sonny Brody, Michael Camrus, Harold Eisen, Lawrence Judah Genender, Michael Gittleson, Joyce Tratner Lians, Helena Migdal, Sidney Joseph Moskowitz, Catherine Newmark, Lee Zlotnick. Are there any other names to add to the first 30 days? We also remember those whose Yortzeits took place this past week, the anniversaries of their death. Naima Fari, Philip Anderson, Virgil Baylor, Jeanette Bell, Sanford Berkeley, Phyllis Berkowitz, Betty Berman, Harry Bodek, Manuel Borenstein, Ben Boyer, Joseph Brandel, Margaret Wilstetter Brooke, Ernest Brooke, Matthew Cotton, Hal Koski, Irving Max Dunner, Eli Ellison, Nasa Fanwick, Ralph Feinstein, Saul Furman, Marvin Frankel, Helen Freeman, Edwin Frischling, Jack Galindo, Irving Gans, Art Ginsberg, Adam Gittleson, Dorothy Gold, Bernard Gottlieb, Cynthia Gottlieb, Jean Grossman, Arthur Hartman, Jacob Hecht, Ronald Heft, Ethel Hennickson, Merle Hilliard, Hilda Hoffman, Aaron Horowitz, Ruth Inkellis, Benjamin Ish, Murray Itzkowitz, Miguel Cahan, Melinda Lee Case, Ruth Kaplan, Joe Kaplan, Albert Karmazin, Rose Kay, Esther Klein, Diana Klein, Harry Krakoff, Leah Elizabeth Lauder, Emery Lefkowitz, Harriet Lehman, Ellis Levy, Lottie Levy, Yoni Licht, Seidel Lynn, Evan McMackey, Marilyn Malkin, Aubrey Morris, Arnold Mullins, Jay Meyerson, Milton Nadich, Leonard Nades, my mother, Ruth Nanus, Jeremy Newberg, Sina Knock, John Riesenbach, Sarah Rev, Erwin Rickler, Judith Harriet Rosenfeld, Belle Royce, Julia Sachs, Musa Seidfar, Roy Shapira, Jean Schrager, Jeanette Schumann, Fred Schwartz, George Sapolsky, Gussie Cebulski, Joe Sheldon, Rose Shamstein, Judy Ann Siegel, Marion Sornoff, Louis Sparrer, Anita Starkman, Pauline Stern, Joanne Stern, Alice Stewart, Jeanette D. Toledo, Dorothy Tooman, Bunny Wasser, Julia Sween, Mimi Wolfen, Anna Zimmer. Are there any other names to add? We also remember those who gave their lives defending the United States of America and the State of Israel, and those who have died through senseless violence, war, terrorism, disease, and those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. We take them all as our own as we all rise and turn to page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chai echon u'v'yom echon u'v'chayei dechal beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Li'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, dami ram b'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Tonight, we look at life and we understand that it's a circle game. You may be seated as we sing Joni Mitchell's Circle Game.
Yesterday a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. Tearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. Words like when you're older must appease him, and promises of someday make his dreams. And the seasons that they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. "16 springs and 16 summers gone, Cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. And they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet to slow the circles down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. So the years spin by, and now the boy is 20, though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true. There'll be new dreams, maybe better dreams, and plenty before the last revolving year is through.
And the last time we sing.
And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. And go round and round and round in the circle game.
Thank you. Okay. I'm tangled. Let's all rise for Kiddush. There's been so much sweetness this evening hearing your voices. We'll just add a little bit more.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushna b'mitzvotav v'ratzanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahav ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah lemikra'ei kodesh, zeichel yitziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'charta v'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Please join me in the Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.